Hello and welcome to our program. After close to a 70-year wait, families separated by the Korean War finally reunited with their long-lost relatives. Watching them exchange tearful goodbyes after a brief reunion, not knowing if they would ever see each other again, broke the hearts of many Koreans as well as the international audience. For this week's A Road to Peace, we are joined by Oh Joon, former South Korean ambassador to the United Nations, to discuss the significance and outcome of the 21st InterKorean family reunions and assess the challenges that lie ahead. Welcome to the program, Ambassador.
Great to be here.
더 늦기 전에 이산가족들의 만남이 시작될 것이며 고향을 방문하고 서신을 교환할 것입니다.
As part of efforts to implement the Panmunjom Declaration from the April 27 Inter-Korean Summit, the two Koreas resumed the reunions of separated families, which had stalled since 2015. Two rounds of three-day reunions were held from August 20th to 26th at a tourist resort on Mount Kumgang in North Korea. 89 selected South Koreans reunited with 185 separated relatives from the north for the first round, and 81 selected North Koreans gathered with 326 lost relatives from the south for the second round. A 92-year-old South Korean woman cried as she met her 71-year-old North Korean son. The families embraced their long-lost relatives with tears of joy and disbelief.
한 달 20일만에 연락 받았잖아요. 미리 들어오면 98년을 기다렸잖아요.
The three-day gathering consisted of both group and individual meetings as well as welcoming dinner. The families spent 12 hours together in total, which seemed like a split second compared to a lifetime of waiting.
대가를 오래 사셔서 또 만나야 돼요. 네.
The Korean War and the subsequent division of Korea displaced an estimated 10 million families. In all, about 4,000 South Koreans have been given a chance to meet with their loved ones in the north in 21 rounds of reunions since 2000. But for those who were not selected, the reunions still remain a distant dream. On this week's special episode of A Road to Peace on Inter-Korean family reunions, we discuss the significance and limits of these reunions as well as ways to address them.
But I'm saying this with a heavy heart because for South Koreans, people in North Korea are not just anybody's. Millions of South Koreans still have our family members and relatives living in the north. Even though we never hear from them, even though by now the pain of separation has become a cold fact of life, we know that they are there, just a few hundred kilometers away from where we live.
So I think many people still remember the wonderful speech you gave to the UN Security Council back in 2014 on North Korean human rights. For someone who cares a lot about these humanitarian issues, I think the recent Inter-Korean family reunion meant a lot.
Yes, actually, watching the reunions of separated families, I think is always a heart-wrenching reminder that North Koreans are not just anybody's to South Koreans, as I said at the Security Council statement you mentioned 3 years ago.
Now, it also meant a lot to the participants. I was actually able to speak to a lot of the families during the reunions, and they were very grateful for this opportunity to even see it with their own eyes that the families were still alive. But unfortunately, this was the first event in almost 3 years. There hasn't been one in recent years. What would you say is the significance of this year's reunions?
Yes, as you said, it was the first time in 3 years. And altogether, I think it was 21st reunion of separated families since 2000 when the reunion started.
Right.
And actually, my own mother and my father-in-law, both of whom passed away, they were from North Korea. My mother never applied for a reunion because she passed away in 2001. But my father-in-law applied for it. He was on the waiting list. But waiting list was very long, so he passed away in 2004 without getting any opportunity to meet his family members or even to know if they are still alive. So this is a great anomaly that many Koreans have to deal with, both in South Korea and North Korea.
Right, and if you look at the media coverage on the recent round of reunions, many call it one of the efforts to implement the Panmunjom Declaration, but critics also see it as a political stunt. What would you say about this?
I think we should separate this process of reunion from any political context. Of course, when we look at inter-Korean issues from the political stand of view, there are a lot of issues, including the North Korean nuclear issue. But this is purely humanitarian. So we are not talking about reunions between cousins. We are talking about reunions between father and son, right, mother and daughter, and your own sisters and brothers. So this should be, in my opinion, purely dealt with in humanitarian context.
And despite the lifelong wait that these families had to go through, they unfortunately only had 12 hours to really be with their families in North Korea. Now, why were they unable to have a lot of more time with their families in private? Because they were only given a couple of hours to have private reunions. Could you tell us why? Because a lot of people will be curious about this point.
That's also something foreign observers are wondering, because unlike in the case of, for example, Germany, in our case, they are meeting only for 3 days, and then they are separated again. So when I had to explain my own father-in-law's case to my American colleague who was ambassador there, she also didn't understand why, once you meet, why don't they allow them to meet regularly after that, or communicate with each other regularly after that? It's hard to explain, but as we can see, obviously, from the South Korean point of view, we would like to do it like that. But I think for North Koreans, I think they are not ready yet, probably because there is discrepancy between what they are showing to their own people and what is actually happening outside North Korea.
Now, speaking of Germany, I think we can also learn from the Germany's model of reuniting with their separated families, because for them, they were able to cross over for weeks. Would that ever be possible on the Korean Peninsula?
I hope it's going to be possible in the long run. Among the original applicants for reunions, I think there were actually 130,000 people on the waiting list in the beginning. But by now, more than half of them already passed away. Right. So we only have about 60,000 remaining on the waiting list in South Korea. So before all of them are gone, I hope we will be able to, regularize such meetings. And even if they cannot meet, we can do some, video conference, video meeting. We've done some video meetings in the past, actually. So we can regularize them so that people who met their, family members for the first time in some cases 70 years, then they know that they are there in the other side of the border. So if they can, keep communicating with them, that would be great comfort for them, I think.
Exactly. I really hope the two Koreas can work on that, because, like you said, time is of the essence for these families. Now, North Korea's KCTV also aired its coverage on the inter-Korean family reunions. Let's take a look.
역사적인 판문점 선언 리행을 위한 실천적 조치의 일환으로 20일부터 금강산에서 시작된 북남 흩어진 가족 친척 상봉이 26일에 끝났습니다. 24일부터 진행된 2차 상봉에서 북과 남의 상봉자들은 민족 분열의 오랜 세월 보고 싶었던 혈육들을 만난 기쁨과 격정 속에 지나온 나날들을 감회 깊이 돌이켜보았습니다. 북남 흩어진 가족 친척들은 남측 족십자사가 차린 연회에 참가했습니다. 상봉을 마친 북과 남의 가족 친척들은 통일의 그날 다시 만날 것을 서로 약속하며 작별했습니다.
Now, KCTV was quick to cover the recent round of family reunions, but we couldn't see any actual reunification between the two sides, and there weren't any conversations in those footages. That's very contrast to South Korean media, who have been, giving live coverage of these reunions. What do you think is the reason behind KCTV not showing any coverages?
I think North Korean media probably think that showing the actual footages of the meetings might be too much for North Koreans, because they more or less seem to fear that all these reunions, these meetings, should be under control. North Korean government probably wants to show their own people what they want to show, so it should be always under control. But I think if we build more trust between South Korea and North Korea, and if the political process, especially surrounding the North Korean nuclear issue, makes progress in the future, as envisioned by the Panmunjom Declaration, then I think we might be able to see more easing of North Korean control, and things might get better, I hope.
Hopefully. Now, the reunion also drew in a lot of foreign press. You spent a significant amount of your career overseas, and I'd like to ask you, would you say that the international community is very interested in the issue of separated families in Korea?
Yes, they are, especially from humanitarian standpoint. And as I said earlier, some foreign observers do not exactly understand why these, old family members, why they cannot stay in touch with each other constantly. So, well, that's something we have to resolve, something we have to, make progress on in the future in our exchanges with North Korea and in our overall relation with North Korea.
Now, it was painful to watch the families part ways again after such a short amount of time at the reunion. For the participants, not knowing when they will ever meet again in the future is the hardest part.
Reunions of war-separated families took place for the first time in 3 years. But fundamental issues surrounding separated families remain unresolved. More than 75,000 of the 132,000 South Koreans who have applied to participate in reunions have died, outnumbering those who are surviving. Among those who are still alive, more than 85% is over 70, while 21.8%, or 12,000, is over the age of 90. But the opportunity to meet their North Korean families is like winning a lottery. In June, the South Korean Red Cross randomly selected 500 people out of 57,000 candidates to be reviewed to take part in the reunion event. Those over 90 or who have immediate relatives in North Korea were given priority in the computerized lottery. The list was then narrowed down to 250 candidates based on their health conditions and willingness to participate in the event. After the North checked if the relatives of the candidates were still alive, the list was finalized to 100 people. The participants beat the odds of 1 in 569.
90세 이상이 12,000명 됩니다. 약. 그럼 이분들이 지금 오늘 이 순간도 한 분, 두 분 돌아갔어요. 그래서 저희가 볼 때에는 이번에 그 상봉을 했지만은 앞으로는 이런 방법을 지향해서 좀 다른 방법으로 해야 이산가족들이 한이 풀리지 않냐 이렇게 생각합니다.
There was also concerns about the reunions being a one-off event. After short reunions, the families part ways, not knowing if they will ever see each other again. the participants often suffer emotional after effects following the event.
후유증이 상당히 오래 갑니다. 그거는 오랜 세월 동안에 만나지 못했다가 만난 그 충격, 꿈 같은 만남이 아닙니까? 2박 3일. 이런 비극이 어디 있습니까?
While some criticize inter-Korean family reunions as a political stunt and a diplomatic tool for North Korea, President Moon Jaein recently stressed the expansion of reunions for separated families.
남과 북은 더 담대하게 이산가족 문제 해결을 위해 노력해야 합니다. 정기적인 상봉 행사는 물론 전면적 생사 확인, 화상 상봉, 상시 상봉, 서신 교환, 고향 방문 등 상봉 확대 방안을 실행해야 합니다.
Separated families are one of the most pressing humanitarian issues facing Korea, the world's last remaining divided country.
판문점에 연락사무소가 개설된다면은 거기서 이산가족들의 편지 교환이라든가 또 엽서를 준다든가 또 생필품을 보낼 수 있다든가 이런 좀 발전적인 방향을 갖다가 문재인 대통령이 이미 공약했으니까 또 이번에 또 발표했으니까 이걸 좀 더 적극적으로 해결해 주길 이산가족들이 바라고 있습니다.
For the 57,000 surviving family members, time is running out.
Now, as we saw from this clip, all these families want is to either confirm that their families are alive across the border, and they want to send letters and possibly send some care packages for their relatives. But with President Moon Jaein trying to step up these efforts, do you think these kind of exchanges will happen in the near future?
Yes, I think after the historic, Panmunjom meeting in April, the current South Korean government is trying to improve ties with North Korea, and I think the efforts are bringing some positive result. But of course, there is still this ongoing issue surrounding North Korean nuclear weapons. But other than that, I think we are in a good position to make progress in humanitarian activities, humanitarian exchanges. So I hope the remaining people on the waiting list for reunions, in the case of South Korea, they number at 60,000. So I hope they will be given an opportunity like this before too late. I also hope that we will be able to go for more variety of exchanges rather than just meetings for 3 days. If we can visit North Korea and North Koreans can visit South Korea more freely, then we can think of other forms of exchanges, other forms of reunions, sometimes cultural, sometimes, they can visit their homes, so not just at the border towns. So that's something that should be in the bucket list.
Now, can we hold these reunions in the South Korean areas? Because I'm aware that if we do, we can host many more families than just 100 from each side.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, in the past, there were cases of visiting each other. North Koreans visited Seoul, South Koreans visited Pyongyang. So that is possible. Even though we are not, or North Koreans are not able to allow, all free, visits, traveling around inside North Korea or traveling around in South Korea, that might take more time. But at least we can allow them visit each other's capital, each other's hometowns. Yeah.
And all these agendas that we just talked about are likely to be included in the next InterKorean Summit's agenda,
yes,
right?
Yes, next meetings, both at the government level, like InterKorean Summit, and also at the level of Red Cross. We shouldn't forget that Red Cross is always playing an important role in arranging these meetings.
Now, because this issue is closely tied to the inter-Korean relationships and the issues on the Korean Peninsula, I think we need to look at the latest developments. So recently, U.S. President Donald Trump canceled, or more like delayed, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to Pyongyang. Should we be alarmed by this cancellation?
We need to be alarmed, that's true, but I don't think we need to make too much fuss about, these ups and downs. Yeah, there will be ups and downs before we resolve this issue completely. And I'm pretty sure that it will take time. But what we need to do is that we need to convince the North Korean government that resolving the North Korean nuclear issue is the only way out for them. Is the only way through which we can make progress in overall inter-Korean relations and make progress in bringing more peace to the Korean Peninsula and bringing more prosperity for North Korea. By getting rid of this kind of stumbling block, I think we will be able to ease or lift the sanctions imposed on North Korea, and that will enable us to get around to a kind of full-scale economic collaboration with North Korea. That will be beneficial for both South Korea and North Korea greatly. But that can only happen when we make progress on the issue. Yeah.
Then will President Moon Jaein be able to continue his role as mediator between the U.S. and North Korea in these denuclearization talks?
Yes, I think so. There is a likelihood that there will be another inter-Korean summit, and that would provide a good opportunity to President Moon Jaein to talk about this issue and to convince the North Korean leader that this is the right way they should proceed to, and there will be great future for both of us if things go that way, and it better be sooner than later. Yeah.
And if everything goes well, all these things that we talked about will come into reality,
yeah.
Right? Then I'd like to ask you one last question. So can you give us the significance of these family reunions and their inter-Korean exchanges in achieving a lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula?
Yes, I think the families who are separated, between South Korea and North Korea, and also sometimes, North Korean defectors who came to South Korea, all these people can play a role of kind of channel through which we can see the possibility of living together one day. For many South Koreans, especially who are young, they have never met North Koreans. So, meeting North Koreans and realizing that they are exactly same people as we are, can help convince them that we should go for reunification one day in the future. And that should be something, that should be a constant goal that should remain with us, because sometimes I feel that young people don't feel like that. Some people might feel that, we are okay without unification. But we need to be reminded that, we and North Koreans are same nation, same ethnic group, same people. So that is shown by this kind of reunions very, very clearly.
Well, I'm sure many of the younger generation also were touched by the recent reunions, so maybe they will also see this as an important goal.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you.
The two Koreas agreed to work to hold another round of family reunions within this year. With the InterKorean summit approaching, hopes are growing that the two sides will come to an agreement on the reunions. This is all we have for you today. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.